at LBC. Text 84850. Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
Hello, very good evening. It's coming up to 5 minutes past 7 here on LBC. I'm Ian Dale, leading Britain's conversation. Well, leading Britain's conversation over the next hour will be the Community Secretary, Eric Pickles. He joins me in the studio. You can even watch us on the webcam. We're streaming it live on the LBC website if you go to lbc.co.uk. Looking forward to your questions. 0845 6060 973 is the number to call. You don't need to stick to his cabinet brief. I'm sure Eric will take questions on anything you'd care to ask him. 0845 6060 973. Welcome.
Hey, it's great to be back.
This is what, the fourth or fifth one we've done of these?
I know, yeah, but this is nationwide.
It is nationwide.
Hello, Yorkshire. Hello, Lancashire.
Well, we will be expecting phone calls from Yorkshire and Lancashire. If you phone from Yorkshire or Lancashire, you will get priority over the course of the next hour. 0845 6060 973 is the number to call if you have a question for the Communities and Local Government Secretary, Eric Pickles. Let's start with a text from Ian, which says, Eric, we've recently lost two figures from the left who had great charisma. Why, in your view, do some people inspire and some not? And is it better to be a wily political fox than a bird of bright plumage?
Well, the short answer is that I've never been a bird of bright plumage. There was never a moment when I actually went through that phase. So I've had to resort to be wily, maybe a badger or something like that. I think there are personalities in politics now, but the party machine of which I used to be part does tend to weed them out, does tend to look for somebody who's going to toe the party line. But fortunately for both parties, the parties have not been that good at spotting them, so we do get individuals. And of course, the late Tony Benn was an individual from sort of Young Turk to hard left to national treasure. Not a bad journey.
Do you feel that you're on a journey towards national treasurehood?
I think I'm somewhere from national treasurehood.
You talk about characters in politics, and of course we've seen a lot in the papers over the past 7 days about the sort of succession to David Cameron. I'm not aware that he's planning to go anywhere just now.
Neither am I.
But I was talking to a Tory MP over the weekend who was absolutely incandescent about this. He said, well, how can we possibly expect to win an election when you've got Michael Gove slagging off Boris, you've got George Osborne, sort of his people sort of constantly talking about leadership, and of course Michael Gove himself, his chances are sort of often being talked about. Where has this leadership chatter come from?
It's a factor within politics. I've been around a wee while, and I can recall the chatter about replacing Mrs Thatcher, replacing Neil Kinnock, replacing John Smith, replacing John Major. It's the nature of politics. As soon as you get into position, people start to jockey. Some of the people that have been touted, I'm quite sure, are not doing anything to encourage it. I mean, my advice to anybody within the Conservative Parliamentary Party who is actively canvassing a replacement for David Cameron is to get out more, get a hobby.
Jack on Twitter says, if Crimea can organise a referendum in 10 days, why can't Cameron offer one before 2017?
I'm not entirely sure I would like the kind of referendum that's been offered to the people of, or was offered to the people of Crimea. There's not many places you go to vote at which the red flag will be being played, or land of hope and glory. I think elections, you need a period in which you can actually look at the different propositions and have a fair and free election. I'm not entirely sure that the election that took place within the Crimea was free or fair.
Well, we've just seen that President Putin has recognised that Crimea is now what he calls a sovereign and independent country. Where next for the West on this? Because clearly there's not going to be any military action. Sanctions that have been suggested so far are fairly tepid. Why don't we just accept that Russia can do what it likes in that region?
I don't think we can, because there's a lot at stake. There's the future of of the Ukraine. It's an area I know reasonably well. There's a lot of Russian speakers in the eastern part of the Ukraine. We've got to try and ensure that there's no encouragement for military incursion there. But I think what the West is offering is a kind of accelerated effect on sanctions to do things by stages. And I think we need to kind of understand that this is not a triumph for Mr. Putin. He essentially has lost the Ukraine. His guy ran away. What's happened in the Crimea was something I don't think for a moment he was planned to do, but is reactive. But one thing that we do know about Russia is it's well integrated in terms of the money markets and the like, and they can't just put up the barriers and not affect the economic consequences of what they've done.
Now, one or two of you are phoning in about planning issues, which I have to say, Eric is going to probably give you short shrift if we get onto those, because you have what is called a quasi-judicial role in that, and you can't actually comment on it.
And I've got to have a completely open mind, and just supposing somebody came on and said, well, this is an outrage, don't you agree? And I said, yes, I do absolutely agree. That'd be grounds for judicial review. So even if I did something that you wanted me to do, it might be detrimental in the long term.
It might cost the taxpayer an awful lot of money, as well as you your career, and we wouldn't want that, would we?
Well,
0845 6060 973 if you'd like to talk to the expendable Mr. Pickles. Ben is in Haringey. Hello, Ben.
Hello. Yeah, I've got a question for Eric. When the floods were on, he criticised the Environment Agency on the Andrew Marr show on the Saturday, and then on the Monday, which was just a day after, really, he said how wonderful they were and how wonderful Christmas was. And is it because the government had cut the budget of the Environment Agency by several £1 million? And why was he blaming them when the budget had been seriously cut?
It's a very complicated question you ask, and some of which I didn't clearly do.
Well, let's get to the simple one. Was you did seem to have a bit of a change of mind on Chris Smith within 24 hours.
I didn't say a thing about Chris Smith. I didn't. I've not seen Chris Smith since I saw him during the summer during the proms.
No, but
I've had no involvement with him at all.
You were on the television. You didn't actually directly criticise him, but you led us to believe that you weren't that impressed by his performance in his job, and then you were in the House of Commons the next day saying how wonderful he was.
No, I think if you look at the record, I thought how wonderful the staff of the Environment Agency.
So you don't think Chris Smith was wonderful?
I have no views about Chris Smith. I've never had any contact with him since the last time I saw him, which was at the beginning of the proms during the summer.
But you didn't talk to him when you were sort of taking over from Owen Patterson, who was in hospital, the Environment Secretary. You didn't actually talk to Chris Smith at all?
I was in daily contact with the Chief Executive of the Environment Agency. And let's be fair, in terms of the criticism was entirely limited to whether or not we should have dredged in the Somerset levels. And I apologise for not dredging. And I think there are too many people in politics don't apologise when things get wrong. And now, given that the Environment Agency and the government and the County Council and the District Council all think it's a very good idea to dredge the Somerset levels, and in fact, within a week or so's time, we'll be doing a 6-kilometre dredge where the River Parrett and the River Thorn meet, and I think it will make a fair bit of difference. But the levels are likely to remain high for some time, though.
Now, I remember reading at the time that you were, shall we say, rebuked by Number 10 for your...
There's not a word of truth in that.
Nope.
Not a word of truth.
We can scotch that one.
It's absolutely not true.
But is it true to say that when Lord Smith finishes his term of office in July, you won't be contributing to his leaving present?
If I'm asked, I hope to make a suitable contribution.
A suitable contribution? Might I ask what that might be?
Well, it would depend on what it is.
Being serious about the whole flooding situation, which seems to have completely gone off the front pages now. Yet there are still people who can't go back to their houses.
And it'll be a while before they can go back. I mean, there is some improvements now in modern dehumidifiers and the like, but some people will be out for months. And indeed, flooding continues to take place, particularly ground flooding around the south of London and through the south of England, rising right up to the Fens, and that will continue. You know, we kind of we have boreholes to which you look and see what the water level is, and normally you put a dipper down, but these things are spouting like something out of Yellowstone Park. The level of the water level is as high as anybody can remember.
Did you feel at the time when this was all at its height that there was too much of a blame culture? People were looking for someone to blame?
No, I don't think. I think when you're getting something like that, you sort of get your head down. You want to do something about it. We had sort of almost a triple whammy. There was the rising tides, those difficult storms. It was one after another. There were rivers that we knew were going to burst their bank, places like the Severn and the Thames, which traditionally are slow risers. So something, you know, well after the event, you'll see the river started to line. There was a groundwater, and we kind of knew that as you moved into this month, the spring tide's proper start. And it has to be said that majority of our flood defences held rather well.
But it's very difficult to convince people whose houses have been flooding that the whole thing has been a tremendous success, isn't it?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. But you compare it to 2007, what, about 56,000 houses were flooded. Now we're not really going to get over 10,000 houses are flooded. But we've offered a lot of help, ranging to ensure that they have a holiday from paying council tax, help to businesses, help in terms of making their houses much more secure afterwards, and we're also looking in terms of dealing with some of the infrastructure. I mean, one of the reasons why the electricity didn't go off for a long time is an awful lot of our substations are now, we've now got them on stilts.
Apart from the one in Datchet, apparently, people in Datchet were very unhappy about things that went on there. Well,
Datchet was difficult, but Datchet wasn't overflowed, and if it had been, we'd have been in real trouble.
If you would like to ask Eric about the aftermath of the floods, maybe you've been affected by it and you wonder just what the future is for your property. 0845 6060 973. Lots of other things to talk about. Maybe the referendum debate, Scottish independence, and lots more besides. 0845 6060 973. It's 7:16.
This is Adam Moore in the LBC Travel Centre. Starting in Leytonstone, the A12 northbound is slow going. There's a lane blocked by an accident. 3 cars involved. Recovery work's also taking place. It's at the Green Man roundabout. The inside lane blocked along there, so you're queuing back towards Hackney at the moment. In the centre, Minories, the A1211, that's closed both ways. A gas leak closing the Minories between Duke's Place and India Street. There's queues around Pall Mall in St James's, the westbound side of Pall Mall, the A4. There's a lane closed there for telecoms work. That's been causing long delays around the area. Those roadworks at the junction with Waterloo Place. I do expect some delays this evening. In Guildford Stoke Road, the A320 remains closed both ways after a 2-vehicle collision at the junction with York Road, the A246, and the M60 clockwise queuing after an accident at junction 8 for Carrington. Keeping you moving, your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
This is LBC. Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
With the RAC, car insurance you can trust from the motoring experts.
Did you get involved with this year's National Apprenticeship Week? The City of London Corporation did. Here's Ben Granger.
Apprentices bring an incredible amount of energy, enthusiasm, ambition. We can help mould them into the talented managers and directors of the future. This year, we're making a pledge to bring on 30 apprentices through all the different areas of the organisation.
It's not too late to take on your own apprentices. Make your pledge at lbc.co.uk, where you could win an advertising campaign on LBC. Conditions apply.
I just saved £20 on this jumper.
Ha! I saved £400 on a new boiler from British Gas that'll keep us both warm.
The Great British Gas Boiler Sale is now on. There's £400 off boilers, you could spread the cost with monthly payments, plus you could be eligible for up to £270 Green Deal government cashback. Sale ends 31st of March. Call 0800 754 754 or visit britishgas.co.uk. Conditions apply. Finance subject to status. Look after your world with British Gas.
Well, let me tell you about an accident I had. It wasn't nice.
It was quite bad.
It made me feel.
It made him sad. For £2,000 upfront on all eligible cases, text HH to 660. Hampson Hughes, finally something to feel good about. That's HH to 660. T's and C's apply.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
It's 19 minutes past 7. If you go to lbc.co.uk, you can watch us on our webcam. I can think of nothing that you'd rather do over the course of the next 40 minutes. You can watch Eric in glorious Technicolor, and I'm there too. Me without tie, it has to be said this evening. 0845 6060 973. What would you like to ask Eric Pickles over the course of the next 40 minutes? Let's have a word about council tax, Eric. John says, can something be done to make the council tax more fair for a property under single occupation? A 50% discount seems to me to be a fairer amount than the present 25%. I have houses next to me with as many as 6 working adults, which only pay 25% more council tax than myself. It sounds to me like an argument for the return of the poll tax.
It does sound, and the short answer is no, we've got no plans to increase the discount for single occupancy. And that actually is under attack from the Labour Party, who would like to end it. So we thought it's important as a part of the scheme to ensure that recognition that a single person household doesn't quite have the same amount of call upon services of local authorities that a couple does. So it's there, but it's not going to be 50%.
Why is there no revaluation of properties? Because all the council tax valuations are based on, I think, rentable values from 1991. We're now in 2014. Isn't that rather preposterous?
Your water bill's based on rentable values in 1970. No one's complaining about that.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Well, I'm just pointing out that I just don't think what you're saying is that relevant. The important thing is the relationship between the north and the south, between the prosperous areas and the less prosperous areas. And by and large, they're back in kilter now. So there's no real need to do a revaluation, because a revaluation does take place slowly when properties are sold.
What about Labour's idea of, well, in fact, the Liberal Democrats also, they want to either have some sort of mansion tax or have a higher council tax band? Would it not make sense to have people who own properties that are worth £2-3 million, shouldn't they be paying more than at present?
I mean, you don't get really anything unless you tackle normal family homes, and it isn't a mansion tax, it's a tax on family homes. And it would start with a mansion tax, but because you don't raise that much through, and particularly properties in London, they would eventually creep. There'll be a process of tax creep, and eventually they'll find themselves, without realising it, suddenly find themselves they've got a mansion.
Just remind us what the limit is for the top council tax band at the moment.
Do you know, off the top of my head, I couldn't really tell you.
I'm thinking that the top one is around 500,000.
It might be, but I couldn't authoritatively tell you.
Because that's why I go back to the point about revaluation, in that surely if it's based on 1991 prices, it ought to be based on something that is more akin to the modern world that we live in.
But it's a relationship between the different bands that matter, and as I just said to you, people do. There is a kind of a revaluation take place. People do jump bands. We know from what happened in Wales, where they put an extra band, it became very unpopular because people suddenly found themselves jumping not one but two different bands, and there were more losers than there were gainers. Right. There would be a lot of losers in London and South East.
OK, let's go to Rod, who's in Farnborough. Hello, Rod.
Hello there, Ian. I'm a Conservative councillor in Rushmore.
Right, no Patsy questions, please.
Sorry?
No Patsy questions.
No. This one concerns potholes, and I was actually watching a debate going on between our local MP and a number of my colleagues this afternoon on email, and there is a significant shortfall in the funding that the councils have got and the amount estimated to repair potholes, and I'm sure Rushmore's not alone, and Hampshire County Council's probably not alone. What, Mr. Pickles, have you got in mind to help us out with this?
We've just announced an extra £142 million to help out in dealing with potholes. But part of being a councillor, my dear friend, is taking responsibility and prioritising and deciding what you want to do and what's important or not. And it's pointless continuously looking to the government to sort these things out. People elect you to sort these out. I mean, after all, they could moan by themselves.
Rod?
Yes, and we are stretching our resources as best as possible, and I believe that Hampshire County can expect somewhere in the region of 16 million. But it's still, as I say, countrywide, it's not going to solve the problem.
Well, how much more do you want? I mean, 142 million across the country. There can't be that many potholes in Hampshire to eat up more than £16 million. What would you like, 30, 40?
I think 30 or 40 would be closer to the figure that is required, yeah.
That sounds to me a little bit like on the back of an envelope. Never turn down £142 million.
No,
It's not to be sniffed at.
Well, I mean, surely to govern is to make choices, as Eric says, and if there is suddenly a glut of potholes, then you have to cut expenditure in another area.
Well, our council is probably one of the most efficient councils in the country.
They all say that.
As I'm sure Mr. Pickles is probably aware of.
What I am aware of is we're in a terrible financial state. Local government is a quarter of public expenditure. Its expenditure had to go down, and I'm very grateful for all the sacrifice and all the hard work that councillors and council officers have made. But we don't have a money tree.
Accepted, but in the potholes were caused by this exceptional weather. Would you agree with that?
Well, where there's been flooding, clearly, and particularly where the land's been underwater for some time, it cannot do more than create a pothole. It can actually lift the road.
Rod, thank you very much for your call. Eric, do you sometimes get rather fed up with council leaders who phone you up or come and see you always wanting more and more money? They're sort of the Oliver Twists of modern politics.
No, I mean it's just part of the process, and I hope I didn't seem to be rude to that chap.
Perish the thought.
Because I think in reflection I might have been. I didn't really mean it that nastily, but the thing is, no matter who's in control, we were going to see a reduction in local government expenditure. Labour, I think, had plans for, I can't remember, 52 or 56 billion pounds worth of cuts. Local government was protected from that. It was always going to happen. And it's about priorities. If there's a problem with potholes, well, get them mended.
Let's go to Chris in Epsom. Hello, Chris.
Oh, hi, good evening. Mr. Pickles, I just want to know, is there any plan for the government to review the affordable housing contribution that new builders and developers are now being forced to make if they build or convert a property in London or anywhere in the country? Because this is a new policy and it is going to kill the building industry, or certainly clip its wings, because the contribution on average, certainly in London and boroughs like Islington, is £50,000 per unit, which is extortionate. In fact, in boroughs like Islington, their documentation online actually suggests that £80,000 per unit is more affordable. And this, in a nutshell, means that a developer or a new builder, so someone who wants to build their own house, has to put forward £50,000 before they lay a brick. This is a ludicrous policy.
Right. Do you have any plans to look at that?
Yes,
Eric?
we're looking at it really closely. I mean, we started from a thing called a thing called SIL, which is Community Infrastructure Levy. And the idea was to replace a thing called Section 106, where you make contributions. Now, we found that some councils have been utterly unrealistic about it, and actually was causing a sort of blight. And we're watching SIL very carefully. It's not been in for very long, and we are keeping it constantly under review. But in terms of kind of social housing and affordable rent, often that can add to a development, and we've certainly been engaged in Ebbsfleet in sort of bringing those schemes forward, because there's a ready market for it, and it can be helpful for the developer.
Well, and
But
it's at the bottom end of the market that we really need most properties, isn't it?
And actually, it can be quite profitable to build. Sometimes you can kind of rescale these things to get improve your cash flow. But if that gentleman wants to write privately to me, I'll look at the specific thing.
Chris, quick response from you.
Well, that's all very well and good, but these kind of policies scare the hell out of me because it reminds me of the Home Information Pack policy, which was all geared up to making housing more transparent or for the buyer, and it was scrapped literally overnight. And a lot of people were left in the lurch. They'd invested in courses. What I'm worried about is, as a developer or a home builder, you contribute £50,000. The next 2 years it gets abolished. You're down. That's £50,000. A lot of money.
Well, you made your point. I said I'll look at it. If you want to write to me, I will certainly do that. I've also said we're looking at it generally. It varies enormously from authority to authority. My dilemma is that I believe in localism, believe in local choice, but sometimes you've got to stand up for the individual.
Chris,
I'll do something about it.
Chris, thank you very much for that. We have 30 more minutes to go on Call Pickles. You can watch us at lbc.co.uk. It's on the front page there. Just click on the link. Now, coming up after 7:30, I'd quite like a couple of calls maybe on the whole issue of the European referendum debate. We've got Clegg versus Farage, in case you hadn't noticed, on LBC next Wednesday evening. Let's ask Eric a little bit about that. Whose side is Eric Pickles on in Clegg versus Farage? He's got 3 minutes to think of his response. This is LBC. It's 7:30 news time. Simon Conway has the news headlines.
The UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon says he's deeply concerned that the referendum in Crimea will make the situation in Ukraine worse. The region declared independence from Ukraine following yesterday's referendum vote in favour of joining Russia. Ukrainian and Russian officials are to receive travel bans and asset freezes after the EU and America put sanctions in place. The Rolling Stones frontman Sir Mick Jagger is said to be completely shocked and devastated after his girlfriend was found dead at her apartment in New York. Lorenz Scott, who was 49, was a celebrated stylist and designer whose clothes are worn by the likes of Michelle Obama, Madonna and Sarah Jessica Parker. She's believed to have taken her own life. The chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee, Keith Vaz, has told LBC it's very concerning that 4,500 children have been strip-searched by the Met Police over the last 5 years. The figures were obtained under a Freedom of Information request by The Guardian. A third of the 10 to 16-year-olds who were strip-searched were subsequently released without charge. Scotland Yard says the tactic is proportionate and appropriate in certain cases. The Chancellor, George Osborne, has asked for firm proposals to be drawn up to build the high-speed rail line more quickly. The chair of the HS2 project, Sir David Higgins, says work should start on a section north of Birmingham at the same time as the southern part to help save money. Mr Osborne is also backing plans for an even bigger redevelopment of Euston Station in London as part of the project. Primark is to start paying out £6 million in compensation to victims of the Bangladesh clothes factory disaster. The money will go to 580 employees or their loved ones who were killed or injured while working for a supplier on the second floor of the building last year. And the mobile phone company Vodafone has seen its share price rise after agreeing to buy a Spanish cable operator, Ono, for £6 billion. The deal is due to be completed in the third quarter of this year and is aiming to expand Vodafone's interest in Europe. The FTSE 100 ended the day up 40 points at 65.68.
LBC Business
with cyberstreetwise.com. Update your software swiftly and avoid cybercrime.
LBC weather staying dry and mostly cloudy this evening for London and the southeast, lows of 6 degrees tonight. Rain and strong wind in the far northwest will extend to other parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England overnight. Cloudy elsewhere with some drizzle in the west. LBC News Time, it's 7:33.
Good evening, this is Adam Moore in the LBC Travel Centre. Well, some good news about Leytonstone and the A12, the northbound side, all lanes reopened now at the Greenman roundabout. There was a 3-car collision there earlier, causing some long queues back towards Hackney. Just a few minutes of delays likely along there now. The Minories remains closed both ways, a gas leak closing the road in both directions between Duke's Place and the exit for India Street. Rayners Lane getting reports of a collision on Village Way East, partly blocked now at at the junction with Village Way. In St James's, Pall Mall, the A4, the inside lane still closed westbound at Waterloo Place. That's while they do some telecoms work along there. Could be some delays around Guildford on Stoke Road, the A320, that's still closed after an accident at York Road. And Basildon, Broadmain, the A1321, that's closed westbound after a 4-vehicle collision at the junction with Linkway. Keeping you moving, your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
This is LBC. Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
With the RAC, car insurance you can trust from the motoring experts.
Boiler breakdowns mean frosty bedrooms, icy showers, and unexpected bills that cause a nasty chill too. But you can call on the British Gas team as many times as you need with our boiler cover. Parts and labour are included. There's an annual service, and customers that reviewed us gave our service an average of 4.5 out of 5. So call 0800 316 9070 today or search British Gas Home Care. Conditions and exclusions apply.
Hello, careful driver. We're talking to you. You for whom the car on your drive is more like one of the family. Not for you, foot flat to the floor when the lights turn green. The inside lane is where you make your home. So when it's time to insure your beloved vehicle, come to the people with 116 years of motoring experience. The RAC. You could get up to 70% off RAC car insurance with our no claims discount. Which may be why the RAC has been voted best online motor insurance provider for the last 2 years by the Your Money Awards. Visit rac.co.uk. Motorists, we salute you. Terms and conditions apply.
At Bupa, our focus is your health. That's why we're committed to making quality health insurance more affordable, providing quick access to diagnosis and quality treatment, with the additional reassurance of 24-hour telephone access to GPs and nurses. Our Bupa by You comprehensive health insurance could cost less than your daily cup of coffee. Call Bupa now on 0800 066 3388. The average cost of a takeaway medium latte in November 2013 was $2.43. Terms apply. See bupa.co.uk/coffee. Calls may be recorded and monitored.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
7:36 here on LBC. You're listening to Cool Pickles with Eric Pickles. Your chance to ask him a question, 0845 6060 973. We're also transmitting this on our webcam. If you go to the website lbc.co.uk, click on the link, and you can see Eric Pickles twanging his braces. Go on then, have a twang. That wasn't a very good twang, was it?
No, I missed.
I'd like to get a couple of calls on the subject of Europe and the European referendum. It seems to be a subject that's dominating the Conservative Party at the moment. It's also going to dominate the Liberal Democrats and UKIP over the course of the next week, of course, with the debate that we will be holding here. I'm not going to ask Eric who he wants to win for just a second. Let's get a call on that first. 0845 6060 973. John says, what does Mr. Pickles think about Skipton being said to be the best place to live in the United Kingdom?
I'm truly shocked. I thought it would be Brentwood in Essex. However, I know Skipton really well. My wife worked there for many years. It is a beautiful place to live. Got the castle, lots of nice pubs.
Never been there myself.
No, you should go.
And Gary in Surrey says the funding formula for local government is grossly unfair to the South. Do you agree?
No. It's not unfair to the South. The formula was abandoned a couple of years ago. We're now moving on to a system of what you do is if you bring in new things, if you bring in more prosperity to your town, you get to keep the rise in the business rates. So things are changing, and what this is about is creating a bit of equality across the country. And places like Liverpool do need a fair whack of money, and they're always complaining about the amount of money that's now starting to move towards the south, which it is.
David is on the M4. Hello, David.
Good evening.
Hi. What's your question? What's your question?
Right. I'm a lorry driver. I'd like to know exactly where the money that goes, the tax that we pay, because more and more roads are getting potholes, and we're being blamed as lorry drivers, coach drivers, etc., of wearing the roads out. Where's the money? As we're paying some of these about £1,300 a time for the privilege of wearing the roads out.
Eric?
And I'm just wondering where the money's going.
Well, the money's going on hospitals, and it's going on hospitals, and it's going on schools, and it's going on armed forces, and it's going on care of the elderly.
But why? If you pay a road tax, you expect it to be spent on the roads.
Well, it goes on all kinds of things. We don't have something where road tax goes on something specific.
But it always used to, didn't it? It's only in recent times that it's been spent on other things.
No, that's never been the case. It's like national insurance. National insurance doesn't go to people's retirement. It goes to fund the government generally. But it's a question of priorities. We're putting in this extra 142 because there is a prodigiously large amount of potholes. You kind of expect that given the weather that we've had. But the money will go out. We'll do our best to repair the potholes. But there are other things.
But why should lorry drivers like David be penalised effectively for people to build hospitals? I mean, he wants his roads
because they've
drivable.
Because they've probably got mothers who need help in hospital.
But that's what income tax is for.
Probably because also income tax is there to repair the roads.
But I mean, why not say let's have a 200 quid on every radio presenter or something? I mean, it's completely arbitrary to pick out sort of people who drive on the roads.
I don't know whether it's too late to do something about that. That might indeed be
you
an
take
idea.
The point, don't you?
But you've got to take the point. The point about what government does, it's about priorities. We allocate an amount that's available for repairs of roads. That's there. We're putting in an extra £142 million, which is, you said earlier, is a lot of money, and we will do our best to sort this out. But it can't just be done from government. It requires local authorities to spend the money on potholes. We've had occasions where some money's been available for potholes and it's not gone on potholes. So we are tying a lot of strings to this extra 142.
But why not just abolish the road fund licence and sort of increase income tax marginally?
Well, look, we could
because everybody uses the roads.
Well, I'm become very attracted to the idea of the radio presenters tax. I mean, we could do anything. We could do anything you want, but it all comes from a finite resource.
David, come back.
Yeah, but why can't we start recouping money off the European drivers that come into this country? They don't pay tax in this country. As an ex-European driver, every time I went across to Europe, I have to buy a road fund licence to deem whether I was over there for one day or a fortnight or regardless. I had to pay a road tax licence to the EU, I should say, so I could use their roads. Now, I'm night drivers at the present time, and you are seeing so many European drivers coming over here with full tanks of diesel, so they're not paying our tax on our fuel, and we're having to pay one of the highest rates of fuel at this present time. So the government are losing out on one, fuel duty, two, road tax, and, having these European drivers coming over and doing work in Europe,
David, well, I think we're losing you there. Do I not remember in the last budget the Chancellor announced something on this?
Yeah, I was trying to sort of.
I'm sure they're going to have to pay a one-off charge or something of that. We'll get our massive team of researchers to look into that over the break. But I'm pretty sure that was the case. Thank you for that, David. Chris is on Edgware Road. Hello, Chris.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'll keep this quick because your lovely lady said you're running close to time. Eric, I've got a question for you regarding affordable housing versus the high-end housing. If we've got a property development company which is building these lovely houses all the way along the Thames, and there's nothing wrong with those, they're being sold off-plan predominantly to overseas buyers, and they're out of the affordable reach for most people in London, is it not worth considering that if they get the planning permission to build, let's say, 800 apartments somewhere in a development on the Thames, that they have to build an equivalent number of affordable apartments or flats in an area of London where there is a determined need for social housing or affordable housing? Not make that part of the planning consent for the high-end development.
I mean, basically, we had that kind of system under Labour, and the amount that was actually built just plummeted, and it plummeted because it became uneconomic to do so. In terms of the big expensive housing, that rather subsidises the affordable rent and the social housing. The only real big building that's been taking place over the last few years has been affordable houses, and if we look in terms of what Boris has plans for London, he looks towards an expansion of affordable rent, and we're in a position now where the number of houses are pretty close to, in terms of starts, where it was in 2007.
Well, we have 15 more minutes to go. Very disappointed that no one's called in from Yorkshire or Lancashire yet. There is still 15 more minutes for those calls to come. I'm going to be asking Eric about his views on the Clegg-Farage debate, which will be held next Wednesday on this radio station in just a moment. But 15 more minutes for your questions too. The number to call, 0845 6060 973. This is LBC. It's coming up to 7:45.
This is Adam Moore in the LBC Travel Centre. Starting in the city near Aldgate, the Minories remains closed both ways. That's because of a gas leak. They're doing emergency repairs there, so the Minories closed between Duke's Place and India Street. India Street also closed westbound between the Minories and Jury Street. Rayners Lane, Village Way East, partly blocked. That's because of an accident at the junction with Rayners Lane and Village Way. In St James's, the westbound side of the A4, that's Pall Mall, has a lane out for telecoms work at Waterloo Place. The inside lane closed there. That's been causing a lot of queues around the area this evening. Still some delays in Guildford tonight on Stoke Road. The A320 remains closed after a collision at the junction with York Road. In Basildon, the westbound side of Broadmain is closed. An accident, 4 vehicles involved there at the junction with Linkway. And at Chatham, the High Street A2 is closed eastbound. That's because of an overturned vehicle at Magpie Hall Road. Keeping you moving, your next travel update is in half an hour.
This is LBC. Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
With the RAC, keeping you motoring this spring.
Here's another tip from IKEA. Put some pressure on your food. A pressure cooker reduces cooking times by 50%. So it also uses less energy, you see. And it's better at keeping all the delicious vitamins and minerals in your food. So stop giving your food an easy ride. Under pressure, it's capable of so much more. It's a small thing that could make a big difference. That's the wonderful everyday from IKEA. For more tips, visit us online.
Selling your car privately can be heaps of hassle, but sell to WeBuyAnyCar.com and you can let go of all that. Go on, tell those people who phone up in the dead of the night to take a hike. Say no way, Jose, to checks that bounce. And cheerio to jokers who turn up with no intention of buying. You're just not funny. Instead, join over 500,000 people who've sold their car quickly and safely with WeBuyAnyCar.com, the UK's favourite car buying service.
Oh, come on! We've moved precisely 6 inches in the last quarter of an hour. Every morning it's the same. Same jam, same cars, same... No! Don't let him in! What are you doing? It's your right of way! Ugh! Why do we do it?
I don't know, but you don't have to.
Huh? Who said that?
With GoToMeeting by Citrix, you can say goodbye to bumper and hello to face-to-face meetings wherever you are. Just download the online meeting software and start saving time and money now. Visit gotomeeting.co.uk for a free 30-day trial.
The most effective way to get business done is to deal directly with the person at the top. And that's something you've come to expect. With all due respect, you don't wish to be dealing with juniors. So Barnes Rofe Chartered Accountants will assign a partner to your company. A partner whose experience, expertise and hands-on approach brings results. To arrange a free partner meeting, visit barnesrofe.com/radio. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for business.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
It's St Patrick's Day with widespread celebrations across the country, but the same doesn't happen on St George's Day. One of Ed Miliband's closest advisors says we should have no qualms about flying the flag of St George. Why don't the English celebrate Englishness?
Leading Britain's conversation, Clive Bull. This evening from 8 on LBC.
12 minutes to 8. Duncan Barks is here at 10. That's Clive Bull at 8, talking about the English flag. Well, Eric Pickles, haven't you relaxed the regulations on flying flags on buildings?
I have. I've done that. It was fairly restrictive. People can basically fly any flag, provided it's a county flag or a national flag or a flag of the Commonwealth or a flag of our European partners any time. And I think it's a good thing. And the reason for that was not particularly out of any love of flags. I thought the most shameful thing that we got involved in politics when we allowed the British National Party to take our national flag away from us. And I think we've just seen shots on the television of last year's Olympics. I thought the most wonderful thing was to see athletes from different ethnic backgrounds wrapping themselves literally around the flag, and that flag belongs to us all, and that's what we used to celebrate.
You can watch us at lbc.co.uk. If you just click on the link on the front page, we are transmitting via the webcam. Mark is in Romford and says, was Michael Gove right about there being too many old Etonians around the Prime Minister? Eric's a man of the people. Why is the PM surrounded by posh people? And does Eric consider himself an outsider?
Well, I'm anything but posh. That I think is a fair comment. But frankly, I don't think you should judge somebody from where they came. Whether they went to Eton or whether they went to Shenfield High.
So Michael Gove's wrong?
I am not even slightly worried about people inside the party who went to Eton.
So he is wrong?
I have no worries whatsoever about dealing with people from Eton.
I mean, you don't agree with him. He has to be wrong. But I'm frustrated by the fact that there are 5 old Etonians out of the 6 people drafted in the next Conservative manifesto. 5 of them went to Eton. I mean, there's no women among them either.
There are 2 people in ministerial responsibilities that went to Oakbank Grammar School in my department. I'm not worried, but I'm not very worried about that in Keighley. I just think it's we shouldn't be worried so much about where people came from. Is where they're going.
So we've established that Michael Gove is wrong.
In your view?
Well, it seems to be in your view. I haven't expressed a view.
I thought you had.
Marco in Birmingham says, the Prime Minister is said to be on a diet. Why are men these days so obsessed with their weight? Have you ever tried doing one?
Do you know, I once went down to 14 stone and nobody recognised me. People just passed me in the street. I couldn't get into all the...
That's a very bad excuse for stuffing your face, though, isn't it? Just to get back up to a weight where people can recognise you.
But you asked me, did I diet? And I'm telling you I did.
George Osborne is looking a fine figure of a man on his 5'2" diet. Are you not tempted by that?
No, I'm not. I should lose weight. I'm far too fat. I accept that.
But you're not going to do anything about it?
Who says I'm not?
Well, you just did, because you're not going to go on a diet.
You're putting words in my mouth. I said I wasn't going on the 5'2". I didn't say I wasn't going on a diet.
All right, Tim is in Hampshire. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
What's your question?
Hello, Tim.
Good evening to you both. It's a simple question, I hope, regarding the requirement of local authorities to have a 5-year housing supply. And the reason I ask this is that I live in a borough, being Basingstoke and Dean, who don't have an adopted local plan and have a shortage in that they're 1.2 years short. And it appears as a result that various residential developers are taking it upon themselves to make speculative planning applications, seeing the lack of a plan as a loophole. And I'm trying to find out what we as residents of numerous places across the country should do, as we're, from what I can gather, feeling slightly let down by the process, which is allowing what one councillor recently referred to me as being planning anarchy.
Tim, thank you.
It's not a loophole, it's a deliberate part of the policy. If you have a local plan, then that local plan protects everything absolutely in terms of what it is. And by Easter, I should think about 80% of the country will have some. To be a local council, you have to show some, if you've got some power, you've got some responsibility. Prior to that, the government said the numbers and you had to deliver the numbers. But what we do is we give power of local authorities to ensure that they have sufficient housing for 5 years. it's irresponsible not to have that. It's irresponsible not to be in a position to be able to deliver housing for a growing population for the needs of the local community. However, again, I'm planning minister, so I'll eventually look at that particular plan. I've got all mind on it. But I can tell you, in terms of looking at speculative planning applications, very few of them get through on appeal.
Marvin in South Norwood says, can you ask Mr Pickles what happened to our human rights to have our rubbish collected weekly, or was it just a trashy gimmick?
It's taken the Labour Party 10 years to destroy weekly collections, and it'll take me a wee while to get them back. But I'm pretty determined that your local council will be able to come to a decision whether or not it has a weekly collection or a fortnight collection, and I think you should exercise your authority with that local authority to demand a weekly collection.
Douglas is in Wokingham. Hello, Douglas.
Good evening. Can Pickles justify or convince me why communities can be ruined and HS2 can be pushed? People don't want it, don't need it, we can't really afford it, there's so many other things we should have the money spent on, but they tend to ignore us all and are going to go ahead with it anyway.
In terms of the money that we'll be spending on HS2, we'll be spending, I think, 3 times the amount on other transportation things. Truth is that the West Coast Road is completely overcrowded, and you've got a choice. You can either build a Victorian railway to run alongside it, or you can build a modern fast railway, and the government has chosen to do that. Were we to choose the other route of the old-fashioned one, then the West Coast would be full of interruptions and disruptions for the best part of 20 years. And it seems to me to be a no-brainer. People want to have more things going on the railways, more people, more freight, and this is the only way we can deliver it on the West Coast.
Douglas?
No, but it's ludicrous, especially the London to Birmingham, because that means everybody's got to go to Birmingham that wants to go up to London. They're not stopping anywhere else. It's going through some of the best countryside that we have in this country, and we have so much beautiful countryside they're going to ruin. And we don't need to get up there any faster.
It's not about going fast. I don't know why, because it's called high speed.
What's it about?
It's about capacity. There is no room. There is no.
The end of the other one.
There is no. Come on. There is no capacity.
You've cut them down.
There is more
Over the
capacity.
years, you've cut them down. There used to be more carriages on the trains. You've got less and less carriages on there. Back in the days of steam and diesel, there were more carriages on there. They could take more people. You put less train carriages on there, so they take less people up there.
With great respect.
Needed. And the trouble is,
with enormous respect, now you're being ludicrous.
You are now forcing something on the country that the country doesn't really want. Is it you are forced to be by the EU to have to do it because of directives they put in, and no one is telling.
It's about capacity.
We do not need it. It's a no-brainer.
It's about capacity.
Okay, capacity. Put another.
And I really don't think we're going to be able to do that by just putting another carriage on. We need to do something about the rail. It's not just about
even at £50 billion cost.
Most of that's a contingency, and we'll be spending far more of that on improving the railway elsewhere and in road systems.
Now, Clegg versus Farage on this radio station next Wednesday. Who will you be rooting for?
Can we talk more about High Speed 2?
No.
Well, I'm a moderate guy. I mean, I stand for the centre between the extremists of the Europhile and the Eurosceptics.
You're calling Nick Clegg an extremist?
Well, of course he is. He's on the extreme of this argument. He's got many fine qualities, and so has Mr Farage. But I stand for a party that will deliver the British people a referendum for them to choose.
What are Nigel Farage's fine qualities?
Well, I think he looks like a very interesting guy. And that's the best I could do. But
he's an extremist as well.
Just because he's on the extreme of this, it doesn't mean to say that either of them are bad people, but they're old.
He's offering a referendum just like you.
Well, he can't deliver a referendum. Only Mr Cameron can deliver a referendum.
So he's not an extremist on that, because David Cameron agrees with it too?
No, what David Cameron said is that he will deliver to the British people a choice, whether they want to stay in or out. I personally hope
whether
that
they want it or not.
I personally hope that you can arrive at a deal with our partners in Europe, so we can stay in.
So you're not supporting your cabinet colleague? It's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
We do belong to two different political parties, and I think he will be very surprised if I was supporting him.
Eric Pickles, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We will have you back again in the future, I'm sure. Coming up next, it's Clive Bull.
Thanks, Ian. It's